This presentation is something I've always believed, and I've always said, why did Hitler do what he did? Why target the Jews? And my whole life I've said, and my grandmother was Jewish, and my one grandparent. My whole life I said, what would like they say, what would Jesus do? I say, what would the devil do? And if you read the Old Testament, the Jews are the chosen people, you target the Jews. And then I come across this book, I'll show you, and it actually goes step by step on the possession of Hitler, and I'm going to cover that with you. So I came across a saying, and I don't remember who said it, that there's two people in everyone. You think about it, the good, the bad. Any moment you could do something bad, kill somebody, whatever, or do an act of charity. Humans are very strange creatures, right? In 2006, the Pope's exorcist, Gabriel Amorth, he said Hitler was demonically possessed. And I read Gabriel Amorth's book, and that was in there. So it's not just me saying that he did this, because he was demonically possessed. So that's a picture of me in October. That's me getting knighted. I have the cape. I bought the knighting sword, which is beautiful. The speakers were over my house last night, the ceremonial sword. I bought that, and that's their flags and everything. So it's cool, man, because who am I? And I've said this for 20 years. Who am I? I'm a Christian warrior. I don't turn the other cheek. I'm tired of this weakness. Turn the other cheek. Don't fight back. And and I don't want to get into politics here because you got both factions. But I ran for governor 2 years ago, and I was more Trump than Trump. And I ran for commissioner here twice. And my own party, the Republican Party, is so afraid of me because I'm not for sale. They sued me 3 times to the PA Supreme Court. I beat them. They endorsed the candidates, which they never do, the incumbents, and then they deceived the voters at the polls with their handouts. That's how much they didn't want me to be county commissioner. But I don't want to get into politics. Because I could talk about that for a long time. So here's the book I read, The Spear of Destiny by Trevor Rosencroft. And the book is based on the notes. This is a really interesting presentation, based on the notes of Walter Stein. Walter Stein was Hitler's biographer. He went with him everywhere, and he documented, because Hitler wanted all these books written about his greatness and all of that. He needed his own personal biographer. Stein stayed with Hitler till 1933, and he knew this guy was insane, and he had to get away. So Stein defects from the Nazi Party in 1933. He becomes Churchill's advisor on Hitler. So now Churchill knows everything he needs to know about Hitler, what motivates him, what will stop him, and Stein's advising Churchill. I want to go through the history of the Spear of Destiny because it's really interesting. It's another thing, and that, like I said, it looks just like the replica I have here. The history of the Spear of Destiny. This spear, it goes back to 1470 BC. You talk about the Holy Grail, the chalice, all these relics, the cross, the wood from the cross, the nails. Well, this is 1470 BC. Phineas of Greece forged the spear. It was carried by Joshua at Jericho in 1450. King Saul threw it at David when he got annoyed at him. He actually took the spear and threw it at him. Herod carried the spear when he ordered that the firstborn be slain. Constantine, Justinian, Charlemagne, and 45 emperors have carried the spear into battles. And now with Hitler, Otto the Great and other German leaders carried it for a while. And the spear can be used for good or evil. Now this is part of the storyline, a lot different from if you've ever saw the movie The Seventh Sign. The truth about Cassius Longinus is different than what the movie showed. But his name was Gaius Cassius, that's the spearman who speared Jesus in the ribs, right? He actually protected Jesus's body because when the Pharisees showed up, they showed up with the spear because they carry it to important moments, and clubs. And the two guys to the right and left of Jesus, Gestus and Dismas, you probably saw it in the movies if you watched any of them, The Passion of Christ. They break your shin bones and then you just suffocate. All right. And when they went to do that to Jesus, this spearman, this Roman soldier, said, no, you're not breaking his bones, because he actually was a believer. He went and grabbed the spear from them. It wasn't just any spear, it was the spear of destiny. And he took it, and that's the one he lanced Jesus with in the ribs. Now, this guy, the Roman soldier, he had very bad vision. You could probably barely see him. If you remember the Passion of Christ, I just watched it last week, when he speared him, all the blood and fluid hit him. Well, it cured him 100%. He had 20/20 vision after that, because it's the blood of Jesus, right? So, let me see where I am. And the prophecy in the Old Testament was that no bone will be broken, and that's the prophecy. So Jesus, because of what he did, none of his bones were broken, and that fulfills the prophecy. And the spearman, Cassius Longinus, really, it's the start of Christianity then. On the death of Jesus, he fulfilled all of the Old Testament prophecies. Let's see, he's actually known afterwards as Longinus the spearman. And if you look him up, you watch the seventh sign, he's wandering earth till eternity because he speared Jesus. No, he's not. He's a saint. The Catholic Church made him a saint for what he did. And what the Seventh Sign movie did was they took the story of the wandering Jew who insulted Jesus on the way to the cross, and that's the guy that actually walks the earth and every 70 years sheds his skin, kind of gets reborn, I guess, gets younger skin, and he's here till the end, right? So they say one of the nails of the cross is inserted in the spear, wired in place. I don't show that in the replica. Let's talk about Hitler. Hitler, 1899 to 1945, his youth, he lived in Vienna flop houses. He didn't work. It's like today's kids, right? They don't work. They want to live in your basement. No offense to the college students, but whose parents are paying for this. He didn't work really. He spent a lot of time in libraries and reading history. What happened was he went to the Vienna Hofburg treasure house, which is where the spear is today. And I'm going to make a trip there because I want to see it, because it's intriguing. And when he looked at the spear, and Stein was with him, Stein said he entered as a boy, because he was, I don't know, a teenager when he saw it, or 20, whatever, and he left as an adult. Hitler said he saw a vision of his future destiny as a world leader. In that hour, Hitler says it began. He believed he had held the spear in a prior life because he believed of reincarnation. And he believed that once he has the spear, because he's looking at it in a glass case, that he is invincible. He can't be beat. And what Stein says, the truth about Hitler is he's incapable of doing anything good. He was a sociopath, right? So Hitler was raised Catholic. He liked to study Nietzsche and Wagner for 3 years. Wagner worshipped Lucifer. He believed in the superiority of the German blood, which he said was Aryan, blonde hair, blue eyes. And he said Jesus was blonde hair, blue eyes. And Wagner believed in the final solution to kill all the Jews. Nietzsche believed that the means justified the ends. He said God is dead. He very much revered the Antichrist. Hitler saw Jesus' submission. When he's the Son of God, he could have done anything to stop this, but he didn't. He saw that as weakness. He sees turn the other cheek Christianity as weakness. And he said that the World War I loss was a stab in the back, and he blamed the Jews. It was their fault. It wasn't the other countries you were fighting. So he studied Eastern philosophy, theological, the New Age movement. He was interested in higher consciousness because he wanted to be in touch with the gods. He saw Buddha as a weakling. If Gandhi was there, Gandhi was a weakling. Anybody that was nonviolent, MLK would have been a weakling in his eyes, right? He said that believed that our modern day materialism came from the Jews. And that prior to that, we were more in touch with the spirit world and God. And we weren't so oriented on stuff and things and a car and both working instead of raising kids and all that. And there is a little bit of truth to that. But he saw the materialism, of course, he says, came from the Jews, right? He saw a lot of strength in Nietzsche's writings of the Antichrist, because that's a stronger figure. Even though he's a demonic terrorist, but he kind of liked him. He called Christianity, turn the other cheek, a blemish on mankind, like taming a wild animal. He didn't think animals should be in zoos because their nature was to hunt and kill, and putting them in a cage was against their nature. He believed that leaders should crush their enemies. Now it's interesting, World War I, Germany got crushed and they signed that treaty, which really led to World War II, because the treaty in World War I was so bad, the Germans had no choice but to rearm and go to war again, right? But yet, what did we do? We didn't crush Germany after we crushed Germany in Japan, we rebuilt it, right? We knew not to follow World War I and just devastate the country and the population. We rebuilt both of those countries. We didn't do what Hitler wanted to do. 1911, Hitler, what's he, like 22 here? He meets a bookseller, Ernst Precht. He's an adept in the black arts, and you can see a lot of this, the people he associated with, right? Hitler uses drugs. He wants to get to the higher consciousness. This Precht guy teaches him astrology and alchemy. Hitler uses peyote, and he's a schizophrenic, and they'll tell you today that that's a bad deal. When you give it to them, they don't experience nirvana. They go a little more crazy. Instead of envisioning a German hero, he's really becoming the spirit of the Antichrist. So during World War II, World War I, Hitler's awarded the Iron Cross. He says, I feel at home in war. He was a runner, a messenger, had the highest casualty rate, not him. They give him orders, he'd run, everybody be shooting at him, never got hit. He got hit by mustard gas, but he never got shot. When he got hit with the mustard gas, he was blinded, he was put in a mental ward, and he said because he was blind for weeks, he experienced a relationship between man and the universe. When he wakes up out of it, Germany surrendered, and now he's fuming. He becomes an intelligence officer. The original 40 Nazis all came from the occult, all-male Thule assassins from 1912, and they committed 397 political murders. Dietrich Eckart is one of the first 7 founders. He's an occultist, and again, a supreme satanic adept and Hitler's mentor. They perform seances. They try to resurrect former Thulists who had passed away. Rosenberg, who's a Jew, he presents Hitler with the Protocols of Zion. And that was an 1897 plan for the Jews to take over the world. Completely made up. The Jews didn't write it, but it was a way of making them look bad, right? Rosenberg joins the Thule Society, and Hitler and the Germans, they print thousands of copies and distribute it all around the world. So now to compound the hatred of Jews, now everybody's got a book that says, look at them, they want to take over the world, and it was all not true. They said the Antichrist would be a Jew, and the hatred of Jews increases, right? So again, I said, what would the devil do? The devil would go after God's chosen people of the Old Testament. I don't necessarily believe the Jews are the chosen people of the New Testament, because once Jesus came, the Old Testament really doesn't apply. And anybody who believes in him and accepts him are the chosen people. That's my opinion, if you believe, right? In 1921, at the age of 33, he becomes the Nazi leader. 33 is important because that's the age that Jesus died. So let's talk about the spear. The spear represents fate. The nails from the cross, destiny. The cross, the cross wards off evil. The thorns of the crown was humility, and the robe he wore is health. The chalice that he drank from represented the death of the ego and the birth of the spirit. Again, I said Western materialism cuts itself off from the spirit world. He believed, and a lot of those type of people thinking, that the physical world's really an illusion. It's really in the spirit world that you can do more, and that's where you'll be for eternity. We're in a great sleep right now because we believe in evolution, which is not true, and materialism. I agree with that line. There's more going on, but if you're only interested in making money and you believe in evolution and not in God, creation, and the afterlife, you're really missing out. I agree with that part of what he said. We have forgotten our spiritual origins, and that's caused us, and it has led to war. Hitler believed his blitzkrieg was actually an act of mercy. He said it saves lives. For him to roll into France so quickly and have them surrender, that's mercy, because I didn't have to kill 100,000 of them. So that's his way of thinking. But he sent millions of his soldiers to their death, basically in a stalemate, because he was holding the spear, and he believed he could beat Russia and America at the same time because he had the spear in his hand. What happened when he marched into Vienna, Nuremberg, he got a hold of the spear. He actually got it now. He took it out of the museum. He immediately arrested 70,000 Jews, decided to attack Russia and the United States for no other reason than he had the spear. And he was going to win, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? So Hitler said that Eckhart had the most influence on him. Eckhart, again, was a master adept of the Thule Society. Eckhart initiates Hitler into ritual magic. And now this Stein guy is verifying all of this. This is his biographer that's writing this. This is what he did. And this ritual magic was derived from Aleister Crowley. If you know the history of Crowley, he said he was the self-proclaimed Antichrist, and there's a whole storyline behind that, and I'm not going to get into it. I got to cut about 10 minutes so we can get back online here. And basically, Hitler became where he was really communicating with the Antichrist and evil. Hitler wanted to actually, and this is true, he wanted to just expel the Jews out of Germany and eventually out of Europe. And this came up with the Gaza, Palestine last October. It was actually the Palestinian Mufti Haj Amin al-Husseini who suggested that Hitler burn the Jews, and that's where that came from. And Wagner, who said you need a final outcome for the Jews, which is to kill them. So Hitler was in contact with hidden forces. If you've ever watched any videos of him, and you ever watch him speak, he was a great orator. He'd whip himself up into a frenzy and talk, and the people were just mesmerized by him. And he was very savage in what he was saying, and he always used race to get people going. It was always about race, the German people, the greatness of the Teutonic Knights, and we have to be like that again in the Aryan nation. 1924, Karl Haushofer is the leader of the Vril. You have the Thule Society and you have the Vril Society. They teach Hitler now about occult blood rites to create the Aryan race. This is where that comes from, but he adopts this Aryan race thing. He had black hair, but he's talking about blonde hair, blue-eyed people. They don't even look that way, right? So he believed that exceptional individuals, athletes, scholars should breed more. The poor people, whatever, that you should have one kid and, the other exceptional people should be taken care of and you have 10 kids. Which is, would fall in line with evolution, let's say, right? Now, Maria Orsic introduces him to a book. It's a novel, like some of my stuff that I write, The Coming Race. Are you familiar with that? Edward Boll Lytton. He writes a book where it's a story that these two hikers in Antarctica, one dies, they fall into a crevice, one dies, one lives. He's writing his diary journal, and he encounters the Hollow Earth people from Atlantis under Antarctica. That's where this whole Antarctica stuff comes from, under there. And it's why Hitler, he went and in those tunnels in the ice, they had a base under the ice there with submarines that would go in. He believed 100% there were people under there with crystals and power. And if you could get the crystal, like the Spear of Destiny, you could shoot lasers or something, rays at people, and there was power. He believed it 100%. It was a novel. It was a sci-fi novel. It wasn't real. But Maria Orsic of the Vril Society convinced him that it was. Now, Himmler, who's worse than Hitler, he takes over the Vril group, and he creates the Nazi Occult Bureau. Did you know that the Nazis had an occult bureau? I mean, maybe recently you see that stuff on some of these shows. I never knew that until just recently. but they create the Nazi Occult Bureau. So when you watch Indiana Jones and all of that stuff, yeah, he sent his SS out to get all of these objects, and they were very occult. I watched Captain America a couple of days ago. They're talking about this stuff. Hitler and the Teutonic Knights. If you remember, right in the beginning, it's only a couple of lines in the movie with Captain America, because that was set in World War II. They're talking about this, right? So he explains the whole doctrine to Hitler. Hitler believed he was on the threshold of not only having the spear, but being able to have magical powers. He thought he could move through time and space, and that his Aryans would be supermen. That was his belief, that we were going to have these we can breed these people, they're going to be super soldiers and supermen. He said lesser humans should be exterminated. And in these schools, it was boot camp, harsh discipline and training in these schools. I don't know if I want to cover so much of this. Some of these beliefs go back to Tibet, and it goes back to Atlantis, where they believed there were 7 races, and the Aryan race was the white-skinned race, and they were the superior ones, and the swastika came from there, and India, if you follow it, right? And then he talks about the third eye and all of that stuff, so I don't want to spend time on that. He said man's consciousness should have stayed in harmony with the spirit. I don't disagree with that. We're too money-oriented and materialistic right now. We've lost our way. Nobody goes to church anymore. You know, in Europe, churches are there for tourists. Most countries, only 5% go to church, 5-6%. You know, we don't do that anymore, and I think people are missing out on a lot. He said, let's see, demonic spirits keep man in tune with the 3-dimensional world and temptations. Greek philosophers believed that ideas were more real than the physical world. That if you had, because you're tapping into something that's forever, that's really more real than what goes on right here. And he said those beliefs faded with the Renaissance period as you got into materialism, inventions, all of that, right? The physical dies, the creative, the spirit does not die. Some of this I'm going to skip through. The Thules survived. The Thules were there during the Great Flood, but they didn't die. They survived and ended up in Iceland. They migrated to Tibet. And it is true that Mao killed all of the Thule adepts in 1959. He didn't trust them. He thought they were evil, right? I don't want to go through this. There's 2 orders, a Luciferic one. You have the Agartha. You have another one. I'm going to skip through some of this stuff. This one group of the Agartha supported the Nazis. So Himmler, the SS, and the Gestapo, they attend the school of Agartha occultism, right? Himmler forms the Occult Bureau. I don't know why it says he incorporated Templar. For everything I've learned from the Templars, they don't have any secret stuff. You know, maybe the Freemason version, because they have their Scottish Rite Templars. That's not what I am. Not a Freemason. Don't want to be a Freemason. Maybe there's something there, but I don't see it with our Freemasons, which go back to the original ones 900 years ago. So they incorporate Templarville, Thule, and Crowley beliefs. There's 49 secret societies emerge, and they're still in Hitler. If you follow in Europe, if you follow Europe at all, they are very occult. I don't know if you go on, look, Fred and I do podcasts. We've done over 100. And we had a woman from Germany. She contacted me, and she wouldn't give her name. We did a podcast with her, and she's talking about the secret societies and secret services. This is a big deal in Europe. That's why they don't go to church anymore. They have, a lot of Europe has moved to the dark side. They really have. And when you talk about, you know, the Bilderberg Group, all these different things that you know about, the Illuminati, that stuff is real in Europe. And if you want to contact the occult and the dark side to get ahead, it's real. You can do it. You just lose your soul. And there's so many people that do this. And I think you even see it a lot now. I see paganism in this progressive movement. But again, I don't want to get into politics. So basically, the SS and the Gestapo would kill anyone who were defenders of Christianity, the Holy Grail, talk about heaven. They basically kill you. see, the SS would recite the Lord's Prayer in reverse. That's the Black Mass. And the Western Allies didn't believe any of this was going on with Nazi. This occult stuff, this ritual, magic, any of that. We were into the science, into the atomic bomb, right? You saw the movie recently. You know, we were basically physics. Let's get the bomb, blow them up, and let's be the end of it. He was more into the spiritual side of this stuff, and if he could get contact with the other side, he's going to have all these powers, right? So this is something, it wasn't in the book, but I had read this years ago. There was a 1945 meeting at the Eagle's Nest, and the Nazi leaders were there, and Hitler, and we know he did drugs, right? Hitler was there, and all of a sudden he starts cowering and crying, and he's in the corner, you know, like, pointing right there, do you see him? There's a demon right there. And the generals are looking around, I don't see anything. So, but you know, I think if you're possessed, if you're demonically possessed, in touch with this stuff, yeah, he probably did see it. You know, nobody else saw it. Himmler, he lived 45 years. He was worse than Hitler. This is a man with no soul, absolutely no soul. He orchestrated everything. He was the second in charge. Hitler put him in charge, right? He had free reign. Hitler lost his soul step by step, and that's what I'm showing you. Himmler was rejected by the military. He was like Captain America. Remember, he was like 5'8", 95 pounds. They wouldn't take Himmler, you know. They wouldn't take him at all. And he became a secretary to a Nazi chief, assistant propaganda chief, and Hitler wanted to get rid of the SS. There were 200 bodyguards basically in the SS, and Hitler put Himmler in charge and said, get rid of them. Instead, Himmler got rid of the 3 million brown shirts, increased the SS to 30,000 from 200. The brown shirts basically got incorporated into the infantry, because they were having battles with the brown shirts. Brown shirts wanted to get rid of Hitler, and Himmler turned the tide on them, and about 800 of a lot of them ended up becoming SS, and they ended up with 30,000. Actually, it ended up with 1 million of these more like bodyguard SS people. Himmler's second in charge, right? So Himmler has two interests. The spear of destiny, again, infatuated with this spear and the powers it has because it's been carried for such a long time, 3,500 years, and pierced Jesus, had his blood on there. Again, believed in reincarnation. What happened was there was some event, somebody tried to assassinate Hitler. Himmler moved in front of him and got shot in the arm. And now that was the thing that Hitler said, you're second in charge now, because you were going to take a bullet for me. So, and it was Himmler was the guy that actually sent the SS to search for relics, just like Indiana Jones, and that's all true. There's even the guy's name, I don't remember who he was, and they paid for him to go all over and try to find these relics. The Nazis now are suspicious of their own people. Hitler and Himmler are suspicious of the Nazis. They just go and kill 4,000 of them, because they didn't know who they can trust on the inside because of some attempts on Hitler. Himmler supervised the gas chambers, the Aryan school, experiments. He ran the Nazi Occult Bureau. And in the end, he betrays Hitler. He contacts the Allies and wants to have a peace deal. And Hitler finds out and he kicks him out of the Nazi party. And Himmler takes the cyanide and he dies. So you remember the 1944 attempt to kill Hitler. I think that was the movie Valkyrie with Tom Cruise, right? So Hitler survives the explosion. Now he's even believing more. You can't kill me. He believes that these occult hidden forces are protecting Hitler. Lebensborn is the school, the area that they brought these kids to. They would basically go and steal kids from families all over Poland, Europe there, blonde hair, blue-eyed kids, 200,000 of them, and they were kidnapped and they were bred in these schools to be the Aryan race. And he based a lot of what he believed on in Darwin's evolution and Darwin's cousin, Francis Galton's eugenic theories. Think about this family. You got this guy talking about evolution, and you don't really have a soul, you know, and you're like an animal that gets evolves better. And then the guy's cousin is talking about eugenics, that, if there's something wrong with you, we need to really sterilize you. We don't really need you. We can just kill you. Let's do experiments on these people. That's that family. I think they were in line with the devil also in their beliefs. There's no way Darwin should be revered the way he is. Absolutely no way, if you really look into evolution. It doesn't add up. It's not true. We were created by God. We were not evolved from animals. There's almost no evidence of that. But that's the thinking. And if you think that way, you don't value life. And Hitler did not value life. Millions killed in the gas chambers. Some of the things they did, they would take the Jews' skin and make lampshades out of it. They came to the point where they said, we're going to kill all these Jews. It's like extincting, like the dinosaurs' extinction. We're going to save some of the heads so we can put them in museums, clean them up, like Predator. Clean them up, put them in a case, and that's a Jew head right there. They actually did that. They believed that. When Hitler killed himself, shot himself through the mouth, he told Bormann and Goebbels to burn his body. He wanted a Viking funeral. That was his wish. Churchill actually said all of this occultism and with the Nazi Party, he wanted it kept secret. Just like with the UFOs, there's a document in one of my presentations where he didn't want the UFO stuff brought out. He was in a plane once going somewhere. He saw a UFO right out the window. He goes, this stuff cannot be brought, because he was worried about religion, belief in God, and and not believing in these aliens that might even be superior. Now, interesting, when the U.S. took possession of the spear after at the point they got it back from Hitler, he didn't have it anymore, which was at 2:10 p.m. on April 30th, 1945, is when. Remember in the movie, we developed the atomic bomb and tested it at the same time that in Europe, we got a hold of the Spear of Destiny. So whether that helped us or not, I don't know. In the Nuremberg trials, really nothing is said about these initiation rites, black magic, and the inner core of the Nazis being occultist. And if you know Kammler, Operation Paperclip, mentioned one time in Nuremberg, and that's the guy that brought all of the Hitler secret weapons, plans, what they were working on, cut a deal with us, flew that junket over and gave us all of that, and nothing said about him. That's a different story. Hitler believed in the hollow earth from the book, the novel, The Coming Race, and he also believed in two earths, so not two hollow earths. He believed underground there's a hollow earth with beings, superior Aryan beings with magical spears that can, you probably saw this on Buck Rogers or I almost said Stan Gordon, Flash Gordon. Stan Gordon ain't got no powers. But he also believed that we were in a hollow earth, that when you're looking at the sky, that's actually the ceiling of the hollow earth we're in. That's not space. He did drugs, but that's what he believed. What he did in 1942 is he sent one of his ships with radar to Rügen in the Baltic to aim it at the sky at a 45-degree angle so he can prove something with the infrared that we're inside a hollow earth. And at the same time, the generals are saying, don't take the radar, we need it. The British, they're bombing us, we need the radar, we need to know where their planes are. And Hitler said, no, I think we're inside the hollow earth. So General Patton, he also believed in reincarnation. It's amazing how a lot of these people, and that's an Eastern, it surprises me with him, because that's an Eastern philosophy belief, reincarnation. If you're a Christian, you don't believe in reincarnation. You may think, deja vu, that you've had things happen. But he studied the Holy Grail and the spear, the history of the spear. This is my hat, Make Ufology Great Again. So if you think it's my Trump hat, it's not. It says Make Ufology Great Again, because there's a lot about it that's not great. And then there was something called the Morgenthau Plan, and I've read that they believe that's what got Patton killed. And you can look it up, the Morgenthau Plan. Morgenthau Plan talked about, after they discovered the concentration camps that they didn't know existed, was we should go into Germany, destroy every business, every factory, make it impossible for them to produce anything, castrate all the soldiers that were caught, and allow the Allies to rape every German woman so that's no longer German blood. You know, because he was so much into the German Aryan blood, we were going to pollute that with every nationality that fought in the war. And Patton said there's no way we're doing this because he saw the threat from Russia. If you remember, Patton wanted to continue and now fight Russia and take them out because we had atom bombs and they didn't. And when he said no to that, that's when he had that car accident and was killed. Half this stuff, I don't know if it's true, but that's what they say, right? So Eisenhower ended up returning the spear to Austria in January 3rd, 1946, and it's there at that Hofburg Museum, and I want to go there, and I actually do want to see this. Okay, so step by step, Hitler was actually possessed. Wasn't just crazy, he was possessed, and I showed you along the way through his 20s and 30s what he did, who he was associated with, you know? He wasn't associated with priests and pastors and doing Bible study. He was looking at the occult. So the things that influenced him was the Spear of Destiny, Wagner, Nietzsche, Precht, Eckhart, Rosenberg, and Haushofer. Those are the people that I just mentioned to you, all into the black arts, all of them. Like I said, that stuff's real. You want to practice it? Go ahead. I'll tell you, stay as far away from it as possible. It's absolutely real, but you will lose your soul, and it'll attach to you, and it'll be a nightmare. So one of the things we talk about with the Templars, because I'm on their podcasts and stuff, and they're in Europe, and they kind of think a little different than Americans do, but you know, they talk about right now, they have open borders in Europe, Muslims pouring in. You figure these are, you know, they fought the Crusades, and you've never repopulated. So why was Europe never able to repopulate the way it should have? I mean, it's over 400 million people in Europe. It's a bigger country. Well, it's a continent, you know, bigger than the United States, higher gross domestic product, right? But if you look at it, 17 million deaths in World War I. I don't know how many died in the Spanish flu, but everywhere there was a lot of deaths. 80 million people killed in World War II. Right, so now you're way over 100 million deaths in Europe, and then 60 million of them left, and they came to the New World. All right, so you probably lost about 200 million people in this 50-year time span. It's the same thing with Ireland and Scotland. I've gone and visited. You know, they only got 5 million people. You know, there's way more Irish and Scottish in America. They were some of the founders of the country, especially the Scottish. You know, when you really look back there, they never repopulated because such a population loss. And, well, I mean, it's important if you want to keep your heritage and your culture that you have. But they're not able to, and it's just not going to happen in Europe. So prior to the age of materialism, we were regularly in touch with the spirit world. I've said that a few times. Divination is forbidden. You know, and there's a couple of Bible locations there where they talk about it, Deuteronomy, Leviticus. And the way I looked at it is if the Bible tells you to stay away from it and tells you not to do it, it's real. I ain't saying it because it's a joke. It's real. You can call these things in. Absolutely can. And here's some example. We'll go through a little bit of history here. Pope Honorius in 1221, he created this book, a grimoire. It was a book of spells, the jinn, black magic, all of that stuff. He wanted to know all about it and put it in a book. And that's what he created, because it is real. You have the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This is Rosicrucian rituals incorporating mysticism, alchemy, stuff they did in ancient Egypt. Yeats and Crowley were members of that. 1918, the first gray ever sketched was conjured up in a demonic ritual by Aleister Crowley. That's the drawing. Small eyes, not big eyes. Prior to that, in no periodicals, books did we talk about grays like the one I got outside with the big eyes. He conjured up the first gray. Why would a demonic entity look like a gray alien, right? So now you got to start questioning, what's the origin on this stuff? Why can we never catch the alien, catch the UFO? There is zero evidence, DNA, blood, craft. Nobody has any evidence of the UFO field, but yet something goes on and it's seen. Well, because it's interdimensional. And I believe at this point it's interdimensional. There's no doubt in my mind, right? So I'm not going to get into some of that with L. Ron Hubbard and these guys, but you should look up the 1952 Collins Elite. It's a branch of the CIA that investigated the paranormal and UFOs. If you've never heard of the Collins Elite, you can look them up. We already talked about the Nazism being obsessed with the occult and the real women. Foo Fighters, you probably always heard of that, right? Nobody really knows what they were. What were these orbs that followed the planes in World War II? It seems to be something interdimensional. And if you go through the documentation on both sides, the Germans said, Americans got something new. And we were saying, they got something new. They're following us, and it's right there. I can see it out the window. Nobody really knows what that was, right? Bill, did he talk about Day After Roswell? Was that his talk, Day After Roswell? My version is, it's the day after Project Paperclip. That's what it really is, not Roswell. It's the day after Paperclip. And there's books written about Roswell and Operation Paperclip. This one over here, Annie Jacobson, Operation Paperclip. That's where the technology came from. And then you got to ask, where did the Germans get the technology from? Okay, so this takes us a little bit we're into the UFO field and that white book out there called They Are Us. My belief, and I wrote this in 2015, it's in the Case for UFOs, the black book that's out there. My belief is that, and this is documented, 1936, there's a crash, UFO crash in the Black Forest, Freiburg, Germany is where this UFO crash. The Nazis, Hitler, they got it. They're looking at it. You know, here it is, size of the stage. There's no doors, there's no windows. What do we do with it? You know, this thing flies in, it's a UFO. They don't know what to do with it, but they're working on it now. With compressing and spinning red mercury, trying to figure out this thing. So my belief is that we got the technology from the Germans on Project Paperclip. Now, Carl Sagan says aliens would come every 10,000 years. From what I've seen in investigating, it's every 5 years as a cycle. Everything else is something interdimensional, malevolent, interdimensional, angels, fallen angels, whatever it might be. Really, UFOs are not here. If you look at, not here like you believe, if you look at the MUFON report every month, 600 sightings, 40 entities, right? It can't be. 180 different craft. It's not as prevalent. There's something else going on, and it's interdimensional. Because if that was what was going on, we would be able to capture one. We'd have some real physical evidence. We really don't. We don't have blood. We don't have DNA. So, so what I say is that we got it from the Germans, Black Forest, Project Paperclip, 1945. Back engineering led to MK Ultra, Collins Elite. NASA and SETI are just the placebos. That's the public view. They want you to think NASA is where it's at. I got news for you. The space shuttle, remember when Obama shut it down and I challenged you to go bigger and better? And what do I see 2 years later? A drone space shuttle. We have had drone space shuttles since, all right, I shouldn't have said it. We've had drone space shuttles since 1999. They're 26 feet long. They're not 300 feet long. I got this in another presentation. I'm watching TV in 2012, right? And they show it landing on an aircraft carrier. It went like right over everybody's head, right over their head. Nobody said a drone, space shuttle. That's why Obama said, do something different. We ain't wasting any more money on NASA space shuttles. We already had it. And the one that landed on that aircraft carrier was in space 3 years, remote controlled. Where did it go? Probably to Mars and back, you know. We've had this technology and it all came started with the Nazis from 1936, the Black Forest, right? Many of the modern science sightings are our military. Trump did not create the space program. He didn't. He was told about it in 2019 and took credit because that's his ego. I did this. No, that's been around since the 40s. If you look up the Space Force, it'll tell you 1982. It's on Wikipedia. They were putting spy satellites up. This goes back to the 40s. We've always worked on this technology. We've told people they're UFOs, but it's been ours. Some are UFOs. I think the bulk of all of these sightings, 10,000 a year, are not aliens. It's our technology, right? So the modern abductions, cattle mutilations, that to me, that appears mostly that it's military, the black helicopters, that type of stuff. There's some paramilitary group that's working with an agency. There's a lot of it that's demonic. When you analyze it, I looked at all the famous cases, many of the famous cases, Carla Turner, Betty Andreessen, many of them. I sold that book out and I don't have any more, The String Theory of the Unexplained. I tell you step by step, these are demonic markers and not alien abductions. And I look for that in these cases. CERN, if you know about CERN, you know, they're trying to find a way to the God particle, but really to go interdimensional is what they're trying to do. So in my early days researching this, every 5 years you had a UFO encounter, right? And I think a lot of this other stuff people are experiencing, I think it's occult activity. I think it's paranormal, it's preternatural, and it's that. And it took me a long time to see that. And really until 2014, when I'm on the Hangar 1 TV show, episode 1, 2014, airs in February, right? So what happens? In June, something's in my house, and it's not human, okay? Why does it show up between season 1 and 2? Maybe because Hangar 1 wasn't on TV, right? No. But something showed up in my house. Why? And I go into that in some of my books. First UFO conference I attended, the MUFON Symposium, 1999, Northern Virginia. I'm a horror-con, Comic-Con, you know, famous monsters of filmland. I watch Sightings and X-Files. I go to my first UFO conference. I get home, I have 4 nights of absolute out-of-body experiences, lucid dreams with hybrid kids. Why after a UFO conference? I meet a albino-looking female there, right? She's there for 1 hour plus lunch. I sat with her, talked with her. I get home, this stuff happens. I've met 2 other albino females, right? One in Roswell, that's the book, the Alternative History of Mankind, our conversation about ancient aliens and they upgraded us, and one in October in Scottsdale, who was the basis of my new book about time travel. And it's very, very weird, and I don't have the time to go into that stuff right now. But my involvement with the UFO stuff brought paranormal activity in, preternatural activity. It's still going on. It's still going on. I'm just not afraid of it anymore, and I use Jesus' name to command it and bind it and send it out. But there's a whole. These are other presentations I can give you. So what did the Germans have? The Haunebu V2 rockets, jet engines, nuclear fission. They would have had the atomic bomb first, but the scientists refused to use heavy water because he knew what Hitler was going to do. He just didn't use heavy water and he couldn't produce the atomic bomb. Die Glock, some people say that was Kecksburg. You know, these are some of the things. Where did it all come from? The 1936 crash in the Black Forest, which was an alien, or UFO, is where it came from. How many alien crashes? Think about it. They fly trillions of miles, bend space, get here, and in one of my books I document 18 or 36 crashes. Really? You can come all this distance and you're going to crash? I don't know about that, you know. It doesn't quite make sense. So here's the Collins lead. This is a cool story. They should do a TV series, a movie on these guys. This is a branch of the CIA. The FBI is looking at, what time did I start? 2:30, right? So I'm under an hour right now. Okay. So the FBI is looking at Aleister Crowley. The CIA gets created in 1952 after the UFOs over DC, right? We formed 4 departments. One is the CIA, and they take over the investigation on Crowley. They investigate now UFOs and paranormal and people into the occult. They conclude that there are no UFOs, that it's all paranormal activity, it's interdimensional, it's not people coming from space. Jack Parsons, JPL Labs, JPL Labs is one of the ones that convinces them it's not only interdimensional, it's malevolent, right? From that comes Project Orphan. They're trying now to acquire demonic powers to fight your enemies. Russia, Saddam Hussein, that type of stuff, right? And from that, you get MK Ultra. We can control you with mind control and drugs. All came out of this. Now you gotta remember there's competing agencies here, right? And the Jason Society, that's the Eisenhower NSA version of the Collins Elite, because they all have it. The Air Force has it, Navy has it. You know, they're competing, and they do it that way so nobody dominates, and one may discover something the other doesn't. It costs a lot of money, but that's probably the smartest way to do it. They're looking at the Illuminati, the quest for the Golden Fleece, which is really this hidden knowledge. And this is true stuff. It's there. It's in books. It's in old documents. You know, the occult stuff, the religious stuff. It's all there. But don't play with it. You know, Enochian is the language of angels and demons. Stay away from it. You know, NSA and the Navy, they've always been the secretive one. And they allowed really the CIA and the Air Force to go public over the years as a cover story. What was really being done was by the NSA and the Navy. And today now it's the Pentagon, right, with the AARO, all the stuff you're saying, and who? The Navy. It's not the Air Force, it's the Navy, right? And they're going to give us disclosure. And what disclosure did we get last month? UFOs are real, but there are no aliens. That's what they said. UFOs are real, but there are no aliens. It's Project Blue Book 2.0 and a whole lot of BS. So you have CERN, right, trying to open up a portal to a dimension, time travel, contacting whatever's in another dimension. Will they go back and change the past? Will they plant false documents? I think it's a real concern. But where did they build CERN in Switzerland? They have a statue of Shiva, a demonic entity, right outside the building, and it's built on the Roman site to Apollyon. Apollyon is the keeper of hell, you know, in the Roman Empire. That's where CERN is, and that's the symbol they have out in front. They don't have an eagle, you know, out there or something. They have a demonic entity. I saw this a couple of years ago. They opened up a tunnel in Switzerland in 2016. They do a $9 million occult ritual to open the tunnel. Really? It starts making me think of Madonna and some of the stuff that they do at the Super Bowl, right? That was done because Europe is very, very occult. It's disappointing with European, you know, ancestry, mostly Italian, but Europe has really gone to the dark side. They really have. So this is an interesting story. Lynn Coteau. She was a librarian at the Library of Congress. The Air Force asked her in 1969 to read everything published in the Smithsonian Library of Congress about UFOs and give us your conclusion. So she reads everything. She concludes that the literature is closely linked to the metaphysical and similar to demonic possession. More and more people that stay in the field, Vallée, Keel, others, they don't say it's from space. Matter of fact, Vallée gave you, what, the 6 reasons why it can't be from space. It doesn't add up. It can't be from space, right? It's coming through a dimension. That was Vallée said that, not Keel. This is John Keel, and I like his stuff. I respect his viewpoint. He says the UFO manifestations seem to be, by and large, merely minor variations of the age-old demological phenomena. If you read his book, Operation Trojan Horse, really good, page 299. What's going on today, right? You know, it's funny. Years ago, I think when I was on Hangar 1, I stayed in touch with the Discovery Channel because I had done 7 episodes on 4 different shows: UFOs over Earth, Close Encounters, Alien Mysteries. So the person in charge, and I said, you know, we go from ghost hunting, then we go to UFOs, then we go to Bigfoot. You know, it's like you get a 3-year cycle, and then they move to another. I said, we should be talking now about some of this demonic stuff and how to ward it off and how to fight it. Well, she didn't take my suggestion because you don't really find this on Discovery Channel much. But look what you got, man. Lucifer's a good guy on CBS. He's the good guy. Hasbro, they're selling Ouija boards. I'm a Rotary Club president, and we get requests from the school here in Stanwood, and you know, the kid says he wants a game. So I don't know what game to get the kid. I'm in Kmart looking. Here's the games. There's like 2 rows of Ouija boards. I said, really? We're selling Ouija boards to 8 to 10, 12-year-olds? It's there. You know, all of this stuff. Harry Potter. I don't watch Harry Potter, but they say it's very occult. But that's what you're seeing out there right now. And yeah, I think I'm seeing our society moving that direction, and things happening that are, let's say, not Christian, not religious in the world and in this country. So I never read a book in high school. I had 91 average. I didn't read anything I didn't have to read to pass my test. I read 3 books a month, let's say. Now, I said, let me read this Paradise Lost thing. You know, I was saying, why didn't anybody ever do a movie? Paradise Lost. You know, there's never been a movie about the fall, Adam and Eve. Nobody's done Paradise Lost. I thought, I must have been thinking of Shangri-La or something, you know, that movie, black and white movie. So I said, let me read Paradise Lost. So John Milton, so, you know, he's known for saying that Satan said, it's better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. But if you read through his stuff, he also said, angels and demons can shapeshift. So what do you see a lot happening? You know, Fred's into Bigfoot. You shoot Bigfoot, he disappears. There's shapeshifters. The ranch, what do you call that? Skinwalker Ranch, right? You got a 6-foot-tall wolf approaching. They open fire on it. Meat's flying out of it. He just looks at them, grabs a calf out of the pen, takes it, and trots away. And the thing, you know, then it disappears. Famous cases, Uniontown, right? They fire on a Bigfoot, disappears. There's a UFO there, it leaves. You know, I mean, some of this stuff doesn't make sense. It has to be interdimensional. But that's what he says, and this is 355 years ago, let's say, that he's saying this. He said they can build in an hour what it would take a man a lifetime to build. So, and my head's thinking, you know, Ancient Alien, Giorgio, Van Daniken. Is it ancient aliens or is it ancient deities that built this stuff, built the pyramids, built King Solomon's temple, Baalbek, all of that? And he goes on to actually say that. He says the half-human, half-demon Nephilim built the Tower of Babel, King Solomon's temple, the pyramids, the half-human, half-creature Egyptian gods of Horus, Thoth, Anubis, Ra are actually fallen angels. I've always believed that. I've always believed that. So don't steal my idea, but I'm talking to the Discovery Channel. Let's do a show, Ancient Deities, counter Ancient Aliens, and show that this stuff is possible. They're not interested in it. Don't appear to be. All right, I'm pretty close to the end here, and I did good, just a little over an hour. But these are 3 books. I'm going to be on Coast to Coast AM Friday night at 1 to, they gave me like frickin' 3 hours on Coast to Coast next Friday. And I'm going to incorporate a number of the books out there into my talk, because there's a relationship here between these 3 books and this albino female I met in 1999, and a lot of my paranormal stuff happened after meeting her, right? In my book, I updated through 2023. It just never goes away. There's something in the house, and I drive it out. I've brought a priest in, I brought a minister in, but then something comes back, right? So that's the first book. Then in Roswell in 2013, I've never been there, you know, I'm a MUFON multi-state director, all of that, I'm in TV shows. It's like, I'm gonna go to Roswell, but I'm not going during the festival because I'm not interested in tin hats and parades. I went the week before. I went the week before the festival. Cool exhibit there. It's kind of old, needs updated, needs some money, but they have every book on UFOs ever written. The best library, UFO library you'll ever see. I enjoyed it. I went there, and I'm there. There's this. It's a different albino female. I see her, right? I go to a Chinese restaurant that night later, let's say. There she is. And like I did in 1999, I moseyed over and I ate with her. We have a 2-hour talk. This one's telling me about how they upgraded us. We were like apes, the evolution type thing, but they were here, the ancient alien stuff, the things you hear on History Channel. And I'm saying, no, I believe in creation. I believe in God. I don't think that's what, and that's what the alternative history book is, my conversation with her. And it's real. I'm not making this up. It happened. And I'll tell you what really happened. Now in the book, my conversation with her was in the Chinese restaurant. The next day, and this is 100% true, I'm leaving now to go to Santa Fe. There she is, hitchhiking out of town, no purse, no bags, jeans, like a bluish top with little white flowers on it. I see her hitchhiking. I look, and it's like something inside said, don't pick her up. Even though you talk to her, don't pick her up. This is not right. You got 178 miles of desert with one little small town in the middle for gas. That's it, between Santa Fe and Roswell. In the book, I said I picked her up and we had the conversation. We really had the conversation in the restaurant, but I just thought that was a better idea. so that's in there. So, and then in this new book, which I just ran home and grabbed a dozen more copies because I didn't think I was going to sell out before lunch, I talk about the 1936 crash, the Nazi technology. I talk about what's going on with Bigelow, the Academy to the Stars, the AARO. This is all false flag. This is all BS. This is Project Blue Book 2.0, and I explain to you why it's BS. They're just pulling the wool over our eyes again. They're covering something up. But, so what happens in Scottsdale in 2023? I've never been to Scottsdale. I went to the Arizona Fall League to go to the baseball game, see the minor league all-stars playing there, and it was cool. So I discover the best UFO museum you ever want to see. It's in Arizona Boardwalk. They got like 6 museums, dinosaurs, UFOs, Ripley's Believe It or Not. There's a bunch of there, and restaurants. So I go right into the UFO museum. The manager says, I recognize you. I say, I see you have a speaker circuit here. And she goes, we'll have you. I said, I'll be back in October. She goes, you're a speaker. I'm in there. Who's there? A different albino woman, right? What is this? The albino woman in DC in '99 had gray bloodshot eyes. The one in Roswell, gray bloodshot eyes. The one in Scottsdale, blue, very light blue bloodshot eyes. So I see her, right? Then some guy's there with his son. He looks, he said, I know you. I said, I was in Hangar 1. That's where I know you from. It's a really cool museum. I'm telling you, very cool museum, and nobody really knows it's there. I've mentioned it to people in Arizona. They don't even know it's there, right? So I then the next day drive to Cave Creek. It's about 18 miles north, kind of a tourist town, Indian shops, all this stuff. And I go up there and I stop in a restaurant. Who walks in? Her walks in, right? Just like the one in Roswell. And we sit, again, we have this long conversation about what? Time travel. Time travel and UFOs and the interdimensional and that. Now I won't tell you more. You won't have to buy my book. And that's what I'm talking about on Coast to Coast next Friday. So it's very weird. My involvement in the UFO field, for me, I wish it really never happened. It's been weird. And it's brought preternatural activity into my life. It's brought paranormal activity. It's brought entities in. My daughter was attacked by shadow people. My kids will not stay at my house. My son saw a thing walk across. He heard voices in the wall. My girlfriend, I got divorced. My wife and I were like Adam and Eve, like that. All of a sudden, a 180. I would say to people, I don't know who this woman is. That's not my wife. I don't know who she is. But if you watch these type of stories, that's exactly what they say. Personality changed, right? And that, I talk about that in the red book, The Ufologist. That's a diary, about 180 pages of all the preternatural, UFO, paranormal stuff. Then there's this tall, slender man, she says, is following her. I said, what do you think I see? There he is. There he is. He's at the ball game at Talking Stick Park. There he is, right? And what happened, and I have this documented in the book, is in 2004, and I don't want to get into some of this other stuff. 2004, my girlfriend moves in, my kids come out, they live with their mother in Jersey, they're with me, and at night on Thanksgiving, we hear somebody walking up and down the hallway, right? In the morning, I said to my kids, what are you doing? Like coming over to the bedroom door that was locked because I'm there with my girlfriend. And my son's face drops and says, Dad, we thought that was you walking up and down the hallway. What was walking up and down the hallway, right? Now, my girlfriend uses the bathroom in down the hallway. She's got all her stuff. She put it there. I use the master bathroom because I'm a nice guy, right? But so I get up. She leaves early to go to work on Friday. I get up, I go in the bathroom, and I got this documented. I have a video, and I might even be able to show it here. I have a video, and I have a Polaroid. On my mirror in the bathroom are 2 arm prints, 6 fingers, short fingers, 6 fingers. I got a Polaroid, I have a video of it. My girlfriend comes home, and she dusts it with her makeup, right? It was a good idea. Now you see it even better. But guess what? You see 2 bones. There's no meat in the middle. 2 skeleton bones, 6 fingers. I measure it 3 inches longer than mine, my elbow to finger, right? 6 feet, that's right. That's your height. This is 7 feet. Anything you've ever read about angels, fallen angels, 7 feet, right? So now, 5 years, 2010, 6 years later, I'm sleeping. At 5 in the morning, I wake up suddenly. My bed looks down the hallway. There's a guy standing there, right? And he's backlit, like the attic lights on, because that's the stairway to go up. He's backlit. It's almost like the alien abduction, where the woman's being taken and the husband's snoring and she can't wake him up, right? So my dog's in the hallway, sleeping, snoring, right? I'll get to that part. But I'm looking, this guy's standing there, and he's like caught like this. Like I wasn't supposed to wake up. His head's above the door frame. Door frame 6'8". He's over 7 feet tall, just like those handprints. That was him in 2004. That was him in 2010, standing there. The waist was no bigger than this hat. That was the size of his waist. Maybe 12, 15-inch circumference, long arms and legs, gangly. He has a square head. I said, has he got a helmet on? And right away, the UFO people say, it's an alien abduction, right? And I crawl to the footboard, and I'm 6 feet closer. It's like 30 seconds into it. I'm looking. He's standing there. He's real. Like, I'm not dreaming right now. I've been awake for about 30 seconds. And in my head, I said, step over the footboard. You take kickboxing. You charge it, and you hit it as hard as you can. A voice in my head says, you don't want to do that. That could be unsafe. You want to step off the side of the bed and put the light on. I said, oh, yeah, right. I work at UPS, safety first. I put the light on. He's gone. So I go down the hallway. I look for footprints. The cleaning lady vacuumed that day. I go up the attic. Nothing. I walk past my Doberman. He's snoring. You ever walk past a dog? You don't walk past the dog. They wake up. Sound sleepers. I don't know what that was. This tall guy, these hybrid, I don't know what they are. Connie Willis, Coast to Coast, thinks they're hybrids, but so that's that stuff. So I just want to tell you about these 3 books. Probably when I sell out on my other books, these are the only 3 I'm going to sell because I think they're the best. Except for my 2029 book. In 5 years, I'll have to start selling that one. What else we got? Fred and I do lectures, YouTube podcasts in my house, which is where we'll put this when he gives them to me. We'll put them up on my YouTube channel. We got 116 lectures on everything paranormal, Bigfoot, UFOs. It's under my name. Just look up John Ventry. And if you see that little icon I have of the globe that says JJV, you click on that, there's 116 lectures. About 15 are political because I ran for governor, county commissioner, and I blast my Republican Party for the cowards that they are. But the other 100 are paranormal UFO, and I think some of the great, I think they're better than the Hangar 1 TV series, to be honest with you. So I think that's it, and we're back on time. So thank you. I'll have the spear out there. I went home, got some more books.